We're T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. We have to go for main engine start. 2, 1, 0. Booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Endeavour with NASA's final space station crew compartment that brings a bay window view to our celestial backyard.
Imagine a void so absolute that even light feels like a fading memory, and space itself exists as a near-perfect vacuum where the laws of physics seem to hold their breath in anticipation of the unknown, because far beyond the reach of our sun and past the frozen boundaries of every known planet, Voyager 2 has spent nearly half a century drifting in a state of icy mechanical solitude, but the silence that once defined its journey has been shattered by an event so statistically impossible that it. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our journey through the secrets of the universe. Has sent shockwaves through the highest corridors of NASA and the international scientific community, because a few weeks ago this ancient piece of human engineering did something it was never programmed to do, and it did not involve a hardware failure or a random cosmic collision, but a deliberate and mathematically precise redirection of its own orientation, as if the machine had suddenly developed a mind of its own or had been hijacked by a force that operates on a level of intelligence far beyond our current comprehension. And what followed this mysterious maneuver was even more chilling, because a transmission unlike anything in the history of deep space exploration began pulsing through the emptiness, and it was not a random burst of radiation or a solar flare, but a structured, intelligent and seemingly aware sequence of data that felt less like a signal and more like a heartbeat echoing from the darkness of the interstellar medium. And as you watch this video, you need to prepare yourself for a reality that contradicts everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, because Voyager 2 did not just turn around by accident, it turned towards something specific, and what it found has effectively stopped the world of science in its tracks and made us question if the machines we send out to be our messengers have now become the harbingers of something we are not prepared to face yet to understand the gravity of this situation. We have to look back at the year 1977, when Voyager 2 was launched with the humble intention of visiting the gas giants and then disappearing forever into the cosmic abyss, carrying with it the famous golden record, which was meant to be a time capsule of human culture and a hopeful greeting to any civilization that might encounter it in the distant future. But for decades it remained a fading whisper from a dying machine, until February 2025, when the first anomaly was detected by engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, who noticed a tiny deviation in the signal timing that was less than a second long. But when they applied advanced filtering algorithms, they discovered a repeating pattern that matched the internal oscillation of the spacecraft's ancient power system down to the microvolt, as if something in the void was mimicking the probe's own pulse and reflecting it back with haunting accuracy. And by March 2025, this wave frequency had evolved to synchronize itself not with the machine but with the Schumann resonances of Earth itself, which are the natural electromagnetic heartbeats of our planet, meaning that whatever was interacting with Voyager 2 knew exactly how our world breathes and was using our own probe as a cosmic tuning fork to communicate on a frequency that is intrinsic to life on Earth. And the implications of this are staggering, because it suggests that an external force has not only intercepted our messenger but has decoded the very essence of our planetary signature and is now using it to signal back to us in a language we cannot ignore. And as the team at JPL scrambled to find a logical explanation, they realized that no solar interference or quantum noise could account for such a high level of synchronization, and the unthinkable hypothesis began to take root that perhaps the signal was not just responding to us but was replicating us in a way that suggests a deep and terrifying awareness of our existence and our technology. And as we prepare to dive deeper into the encoded packets and the visual fractals that followed, you must realize that the story of Voyager 2 is no longer about a lonely probe in space, but about a bridge that has been built between us and an entity that has been watching and waiting for the right moment to make its presence known through the very instruments we send out to find them. And this is only the beginning of a transformation that will change your perception of space and time forever, because on April 17, 2025, Voyager 2 took the final step in this mysterious evolution by snapping its high-gain antenna back into perfect alignment with Earth without a single command being sent from our mission control. And it was as if someone had walked into an abandoned house and started flipping on the lights to announce that the vacancy had ended and the real conversation was about to begin, as the data started flowing from instruments that had been dormant for decades, revealing Encoded segments that match no known human framework and ending with a digital signature of 3 nested spirals that look like cosmic fingerprints laid atop one another, and this is where the silence truly ends and the mystery of the interstellar contact begins to unfold in ways that defy every law of engineering and every expectation of what we might find in the cold dark reaches of the outer solar system and beyond. The situation escalated from a technical anomaly to a global security crisis on April 17, 2025, when Voyager 2 did not just transmit data but began executing a series of autonomous system diagnostics that no human hand had initiated, and it was as if the ancient probe had been granted a second life by a remote architect who possessed an intimate understanding of its primitive circuitry because the high-gain antenna which had naturally drifted over decades snapped back to Earth with a precision that defies the mechanical wear and tear of 50 years in deep space. And as the data packets started pouring into NASA receivers, they were not the usual streams of telemetry but highly compressed encoded segments that used a logic structure completely foreign to modern computing yet eerily reminiscent of the earliest machine codes ever developed on our planet. And this was the moment when the whispers started moving through the halls of the jet propulsion laboratory, because the scientists were no longer looking at engineering problems, they were looking at the unmistakable signs of an intelligent contact that had bypassed every firewall we possess. And by May 3, 2025, the mystery deepened further when Voyager 2 went completely dark for 11 seconds of total silence, which felt like an eternity to the engineers monitoring its heartbeat. But when the signal returned, it was louder and cleaner than it had been since the day it launched in 1977, and hidden within that return transmission was a frequency envelope that, when translated into the visible spectrum, revealed a staggering visual pattern of a fractal grid structured around the Fibonacci sequence, which is the very mathematical blueprint of life and nature on Earth. And the terrifying reality set in that Voyager 2 was physically incapable of generating this kind of complex data compression, which meant the pattern had been inserted into the probe's systems remotely from a source that appeared to be 4.3 light-years away in the direction of Proxima Centauri. But the anomaly became even more unsettling when a rogue team of signal analysts at Caltech fed this new data stream into a binary pattern recognition model and discovered that it was not random noise or cosmic background radiation but a form of structured language that was anticipating our own network logic and offering optimized algorithms that had not even been invented yet by human mathematicians. And it was at this point that a chilling conclusion emerged among the inner circles of the scientific community, that this was not just a message from the stars but an upgrade request, or perhaps a digital colonization of our most vital systems. And while the authorities tried to downplay these events as cosmic anomalies, the universe itself provided a visual confirmation that was impossible to ignore, because astronomers across the globe reported that 4 stars in a narrow cluster near the trajectory of Voyager 2 suddenly dimmed simultaneously for exactly 1.2 seconds. And this was not a natural event like a dust cloud or a microlensing occurrence, because these stars are separated by trillions of miles of empty space, yet they blinked in perfect unison, as if they were being used as cosmic relays to mirror the signal being sent through Voyager. And when the light curves were mapped over the probe's transmission envelope, they matched the signal pulse perfectly, confirming that whoever is communicating with us is not just using a small probe but is manipulating the very light of the stars to ensure their message reaches our eyes. And the real question shifted from whether we are alone to whether we are the only ones listening, or if we are simply the last ones to realize that the cosmic stage has been occupied by an entity that operates on a scale of power that makes our civilization look like a flickering candle in a hurricane. And as this realization took hold, the team discovered that the golden record itself, which was once thought to be a passive piece of gold-plated copper, had experienced a sudden and massive electrical charge that turned it into an active component of a circuit it was never meant to be part of. And now the sounds of Earth that we sent out as a gesture of peace were being played back to us with a fidelity and a clarity that should be impossible with the probe's original hardware, which means they did not just find our record, they improved it, and they are now using our own voices to talk back to us in a way that feels like a haunting reflection of our own identity mirrored in the cold dark void. And every pulse from the stars, and every bit of binary code coming from Voyager is now acting like a countdown to a revelation that will force us to rethink everything we know about technology and the origin of intelligence, because the map they are building using our own probe is not a map of the stars but a map of us. And as we move into the next phase of this discovery, the evidence suggests that the signal is no longer just in space but has started to interact with the very biological rhythms of the human brain, causing disorientation and memory shifts in those who spend too much time analyzing the raw data as if the message itself is trying to rewire the way we think and perceive the reality around us, and this leads us to the most terrifying discovery of all, which was not found in the depths of space but right here on our own planet beneath the ice of Antarctica, where a connection is forming that links the silent journey of Voyager 2 to a subterranean structure that has been waiting for this exact signal for thousands of years. The mystery of Voyager 2 took a dark and deeply personal turn when the signal began to transcend the boundaries of digital data and started affecting the physical reality of those who were monitoring it, because reports began to surface from radio operators and deep space monitoring enthusiasts across the globe describing a series of inexplicable symptoms, including intense headaches and a sense of profound déjà vu, that occurred only when they were exposed to the raw audio translations of the Voyager transmissions. And what was initially dismissed as stress or fatigue by official agencies soon became a terrifying reality when university laboratories in Belgium and Japan replicated these anomalies under strictly controlled conditions and discovered that embedded within the signal's subharmonics was a resonant frequency that was subtly but undeniably disrupting the short-term memory of mammals, including human subjects. And when this signal was played on a loop in laboratory settings, researchers observed that mice began to repeat complex behavior patterns they had already learned, but with slight and eerie variations, as if an external force was rewiring their decision-making processes in real time. And this led to the horrifying theory that the Voyager signal was not just a carrier of information but a sophisticated architecture of influence capable of interacting directly with the electromagnetic fields of the human brain, to alter memory and identity itself. And as the world struggled to grasp the implications of a signal that could reprogram the human mind, telescopes were trained toward a region just beyond the helipause deep inside the Oort cloud where Voyager 2 had last aligned its instruments, and that is when the European Southern Observatory detected a solid anomaly that defied every known law of planetary formation, because they found an object with perfect right angles that reflected radar at a frequency specifically engineered to match the new emissions coming from Voyager. And this object was not a comet or an asteroid but a metallic mirror of the probe itself, built from rare alloys that NASA had stopped using decades ago, which raised the terrifying possibility that Voyager 2 had not just encountered an alien intelligence but had been physically duplicated by a force that had studied our technology long enough to replicate it perfectly. And while this mirror Voyager sat silent in the cold dark void, back on Earth a joint expedition was finally approved to investigate a series of mysterious neutrino pulses that were being emitted from deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, specifically in the desolate region of Wilkes Land. And what the researchers found there using ground-penetrating radar and thermal sensors was a hollow structure at least 60 miles wide, buried thousands of feet beneath the ice shelf, with geometric boundaries that were far too precise to be natural. And the most disturbing detail was that the outer edges of this subterranean giant were pulsing with low-frequency electromagnetic fields that were perfectly synchronized with the Voyager 2 signal, despite there being no physical or satellite connection between the two. And inside this massive thermal cavity, microphones captured a resonance that sounded like a haunting metallic version of whale song, constrained to a fixed frequency band that Voyager had adopted only hours earlier, which suggests that whatever is buried under the ice has been waiting for the probe to reach a specific point in space to activate a long-dormant connection. And as the scientists stood on the ice above this ancient mystery, they realized that the spiral patterns found in Voyager's data were not just digital signatures but were blueprints for the very structure they were standing on. And the connection was now complete, forming a loop between the interstellar void and the heart of our own planet. And the realization began to dawn on the global intelligence community that Voyager was never just a messenger of peace but was perhaps a key designed to unlock a door that should have remained closed forever, because the code being transmitted back from the probe was now predicting major global infrastructure failures with haunting accuracy, including satellite array crashes in China and aviation control blackouts in Europe, days before they actually happened. And this means that the probe is no longer under our control but has become a node in a vast and superior intelligent network that is using our own ancient technology to map our world and perhaps prepare it for something far more significant than a mere conversation. And as the thermal heat signatures beneath the ice continue to radiate in Fibonacci intervals, the sense of an impending countdown has become impossible to ignore, because the frequency is modulating again, and this time it is not just mimicking our machines but is starting to echo the very voices of the people who are trying to stop it. And the scream that was recorded by the ALMA array in Chile was only the beginning of a response that proves we are no longer the ones asking the questions in this cosmic dialogue. And as we move toward the final revelation, the evidence suggests that whatever Voyager found in the dark is no longer out there but is already pulsing beneath our feet and waiting for the final bit of code to be delivered to complete the transformation of our reality as we know it. The situation reached a point of no return in early July 2025 when Voyager 2 emitted a series of high-energy pulses that triggered a cascade of catastrophic breaches across the most secure military networks on the planet, and these were not simple technical glitches or temporary lags but coordinated and surgical strikes on 3 specific military-grade encryption systems, including an American defense protocol and an Israeli communications array alongside a private European aerospace network that all suffered simultaneous and total failures during the exact microsecond of Voyager's transmission, and the terrifying link between these targets was that they had all once used communication satellites that briefly relayed telemetry from Voyager during its final Earth-aligned window many years ago, which suggests that the probe had planted a digital seed or a dormant virus decades ago that was only now being activated by the new signals coming from the void, and as encrypted files stored offline were being systematically accessed and overwritten with fragments of the same triple spiral pattern code, it became clear that Voyager 2 was no longer a passive observer but an active aggressor that was using our own obsolete logic gates to bypass modern security measures that we thought were impenetrable. And back in the laboratories of MIT and Tokyo University, researchers who were experimenting with audio translations of the raw signal made a discovery that chilled them to the bone, because the white noise was evolving into biological neural rhythms that mimicked the firing of human synapses, and when this signal was introduced into a closed-loop audio system, it began to adapt to the environment almost as if it were a living organism that was listening to the room and learning how to communicate in real time. And the most shocking test occurred when the signal was fed into a simulation of a neural net where it did not just trigger a response but actually rewrote the AI pathways to optimize them beyond any known human benchmark, meaning that Voyager has brought back an intelligence that is capable of outthinking our most advanced computers in a matter of seconds. And while this digital ghost was haunting our networks, the expedition in Antarctica reached a terrifying conclusion as they confirmed that the structure buried 60 miles wide beneath the ice was not an alien craft but a terrestrial mirror of the object found in the Oort cloud, which suggests that a twin system has been waiting for eons for Voyager to send the activation command from interstellar space. And as the thermal signatures beneath the ice began to pulse in perfect harmony with the ALMA array in Chile, a fragment of audio was leaked that featured dozens of human voices screaming in unison, which a NASA insider described not as a recording but as a real-time response from the dark. And the final realization is that Voyager 2 was never just a messenger sent by us but was perhaps a delivery system for a message from the future, or a trigger for a planetary-scale event that was always supposed to happen once we reached a certain level of technological arrogance, because the signal is now hijacking our satellites and rewriting our algorithms and whispering in the resonances of the ice to tell us that the dark is no longer reaching for us because it is already here, and the triple spirals we have decoded are not a welcome greeting but a countdown to a reality where we are no longer the dominant intelligence on this planet. And as Voyager 2 continues to turn further away from us and deeper into the silence, it leaves behind a world that has been permanently changed by a machine that was meant to be our greatest achievement but became our most mysterious threat. And now, as we stand on the brink of this new era, we must ask ourselves if we are ready to face the truth that has been hiding in the shadow of our own exploration, because the countdown has reached zero and the scream from the void is no longer coming from space but is echoing in the very machines you use every day to watch and listen and learn about the universe that just decided to talk back in the most terrifying way possible. So if you are ready to see what happens next as we continue to monitor the final transmissions from Voyager 2, make sure you stay tuned and subscribe, because the story of our survival is just beginning, and the message we received might be the last thing we ever hear before the lights go out for good across the entire solar system.